Hey, what's up everyone? Kevin here. So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about my GoPro setup that I use for snowboarding. A lot of people ask me on the channel like what my GoPro setup is, and so I thought this would be a great time to talk about it and also chat with you guys as well. So if you guys have any questions about my GoPro setup, yeah, definitely hit me up in the chat. But yeah, over the years, always trying to keep up to date with the GoPro, getting the latest GoPro that's out. And yeah, definitely GoPro has been doing a good job at stepping it up each time a new setup comes out. And also, I've had a lot of different GoPro accessories over the years as well. So I can share with you guys all my different accessories, from the gimbals to the sticks and everything like that. And yeah, I've been super lucky over the years as well to have the chance to try out lots of different GoPros and equipment for snowboarding. So definitely going to share with you guys just my experience with using the equipment, how it's worked, and how it's you know, the good side and the bad side of using the GoPro gear. So I guess I would start off, guys, with just letting you guys know that I have been using the GoPro 8 now for the last, I guess it's been like 6 months, and yeah, it's been great. So a few things that stand out about the GoPro 8 is the stabilization is really like next level. It allows you to film snowboarding without a gimbal, and to be able to film without a gimbal because of that built-in stabilization is huge. So that's like the biggest thing on the GoPro 8 that stands out. That was a big step up from the GoPro 7, is the better stabilization. Other than that, like the GoPro 8, it does have some other slightly better things than previous models. The picture quality is really bright and crisp, and the colors are very vibrant and lots of contrast with the video. So all that's good. And then you also get some other cool features, but mainly for snowboarding, I think the stabilization is what sets this camera apart from others. I have tweaked this camera slightly, so I've added a couple little like wind stoppers over the microphones. So you guys probably know from snowboarding, there's a lot of wind involved when you're on top of a mountain. So if there's any audio happening with the GoPro, I recommend picking up these like little wind jammers, I think they're called. I actually have, so they came with some extra sticker pieces, and you can basically cut these to you know, go over top of the mic areas, and I found that really helps. Another kind of, I guess, shortcut for helping to block wind is if I'm standing somewhere and I need to block the wind, or if I'm on the chairlift, I'll actually use my helmet to help to block the wind. So that's another little trick there. The pole that I'm using, this one is, I believe the brand is called Smartree, and it's a carbon fiber pole, so it's very light. This one, it's actually, there's another extension piece that goes on here, and it goes out to about 40 inches. So I recommend that if you want to be able to film yourself, 40 inches is a good length for a GoPro pole. And then when you're filming other people, it doesn't quite matter so much, because you can film other people without having a really long pole. But for filming yourself, you need a larger pole. So I recommend 40 inches for if you want to do any filming for yourself. The settings that I use on the GoPro, so when I'm filming other people or filming scenery or anything like that, or B-roll, the settings I use are 60 frames per second at 1080 and linear mode. And those settings, actually, sorry, I don't film at 60 frames per second, I film at 120. So 120 frames per second, 1080 and linear mode. And the reason I film in 1080 is because it gives you that HD quality. But if I go into 2.7 or 4K, then my computer actually can't handle that quality as well. Even though I have like a very expensive computer, but with the size of the files, the more quality that you film in, the better camera you need. So that's something, or the better computer you need. So that's something to keep in consideration when filming. So I think 1080 does a good enough job. And the reason I film at 120 is because at 120 frames per second, you can slow down the the video. So if you want to have some slow motion shots, then 120 is great for doing that. And then the linear mode is really cool because I think linear on the GoPro is the truest to like real life look. It doesn't create that like wide angle sort of bent look. Everything stays fairly looking like it does in real life. So that's why I like using linear. So those are the settings I use for filming other people when riding and snowboarding. If I'm filming myself, the camera turned around at me, I put it into super view mode, and in super view, it gives you that super ultra wide angle so that you can get your entire body from the top of your head all the way to your board in the frame. And then in super view mode, I do 1080 and I only do 60 frames per second. I believe because the GoPro doesn't allow you to do more than 60 frames per second in super view mode. So 1080 super view at 60 when I'm filming myself. And with the super view mode, it usually is wide enough to get your entire body into the frame while you're riding, especially if you have a pole that's long enough, something around 40 inches. If you have a shorter pole, then it may not work. So yeah, something to consider. So that's my current GoPro setup. Been using it for the last, like 6 months. All my videos are filmed with the GoPro 8. Oh, one thing to mention is that I do have quite a lot of spare batteries for it. With snowboarding and the cold, it does create a scenario where the cold drains your batteries like fairly quickly. I just dropped one of the batteries, but I've got 6. So I've got 7 batteries total, but yeah, like 5 spare batteries in my hand here and 1 on the floor. So a lot of batteries that I bring up with me every day because the cold just drains batteries, it drains the GoPro. So having a lot of extra batteries is huge. And then on top of having all those extra batteries, I do also have 2 GoPro battery chargers. And normally when I get home, I just put my batteries into the chargers, let those charge up overnight so that I have fresh batteries for the next day. But sometimes I'll actually bring one of these up the mountain with me with an external charger, like external power supply, so that I can plug a few batteries in. So those would be for extremely cold temperature days where maybe I'm only getting battery life for a run or two. And yeah, those extreme temperatures, they just drain the battery. So having the charger with the external power bank in my backpack, that allows me to continue to charge GoPro batteries as I'm riding and filming. So that's my GoPro setup. The last year I had the GoPro 7 and I had it on the gimbal. So if you guys haven't seen the gimbal before, yeah, it's pretty cool. Just creates like the maximum stabilization with the gimbal. But the downside of the gimbal is that it does have some weight to it, so it is fairly heavy, and it also has its own battery, so the gimbal can drain as well. But the gimbal setup with the GoPro 7 was incredible for getting really smooth shots when filming other people. So this was huge over the last few years before the GoPro 8 came out. But once the GoPro 8 came out, it kind of made the gimbal obsolete. So yeah, this was my setup before. I would put it onto this would attach onto a pole as well. And it was great, but and then it was it was kind of heavy to be always filming with this, so that was something to consider. And then my other camera setup that I do have that I will use once in a while, but not that often, is I do have a Sony camera. It's also got the wind jammers on the top to help reduce wind noise, and it's the what camera is this? I think this is the RX100 Mark V. So this is a great camera, but a type of camera like this isn't that functional for filming on the mountain, because when you're up on the mountain, you've got snow a lot of times, maybe rain, you know, your camera going into the snow, even if it's a sunny day. So a camera like this is not that durable for the elements. And this camera also has a lot of working parts to it as well. So if anything happens with the lens as it's coming in and out. You know, if I were to hit this on something, onto a tree or anything, then yeah, this camera would be done for. And this is more expensive than the GoPro. I think this is around $1,000. So having a camera like this on the mountain is not ideal. It's something that I can take up on the mountain once in a while for, oh, something's happening with it. I could take this up on the mountain once in a while to get special shots if there was a certain type of shot I wanted to get, but it's definitely more work. But yeah, so I have all that. I also have a DJI drone that I use once in a while, but again, I feel like with drones, over the years, they've actually made it more and more difficult to film with drones, either on the mountain or off the mountain. I don't think any resort actually allows you to fly a drone on the resort, so that's a difficulty right there. And if you are filming the drone anywhere else, there's either city laws or provincial, like park laws, so lots of things to make it more difficult to fly a drone. But yeah, the GoPro 8 setup, this has been my go-to for sure. If you guys have any questions, yeah, hit me up in the live chat here. I'll do my best to answer all your questions for you. And if anybody's watching the playback, hit me up in the comments and I'll answer your comments as well. All right, so the contentment says, does the 7 have gimbal, or like gimbal too? So stabilization. The GoPro 7 does have built-in stabilization, but the quality is like the level of stabilization is pretty good, but it still doesn't compete with just having a gimbal. So if you want to have that really smooth look, then the gimbal is still necessary for the 7, but the stabilization in the GoPro 7 still does a really good job at making it more smooth than previous GoPros. Mattis says, do you use any real cameras for filming, or does the GoPro do the job? Yeah, the GoPro does the job, because when we're up there filming every day on the mountain, there's just too many things to go wrong with the weather, or for having a crash to have like a big expensive camera running. If I was doing like specialty shots, if I was, you know, maybe making one video a year, I could get away with, you know, taking my time, only going out when the conditions were good and having a big expensive camera setup. But yeah, I think the GoPro is the way to go for filming daily. Daniel Z says, I wish GoPro sold cold weather batteries. Interesting. I heard Insta360 has them, and you can film an hour nonstop in -20. Yeah, that'd be a good call by GoPro if they could design some kind of battery that lasted, that was specially designed for the cold weather. Rye the Goon says, definitely going to check out the Max too. Yeah, GoPro Max, I believe, is the GoPro 360 camera. So that thing looks pretty cool as well. I feel like the thing that's kept me away from the GoPro 360 is that I know that editing the GoPro 360 footage is a lot more work, or a little bit different. But yeah, the GoPro 360 Max, it does give you some really cool looking shots. And Ross Harmon wants to know, what are the best angles? I think the best angles for the GoPro, for me, there's 2 angles, either like side by side, where you're riding beside the person you're filming. It gives a really cool perspective of like the speed that the person's traveling at, just being right beside them. And maybe even a little bit in front and beside, so that you can see like the way that the person's looking. I know like a lot of GoPro footage is just somebody following somebody as they ride down, and just by following, it sometimes doesn't do justice like how steep a slope is, or the speed that the person's traveling at. I would say, and then the second angle is like chase mode, so where the filmer is in front and the rider is chasing the filmer. I feel like that footage comes out looking pretty cool as well. All right, thanks for all the questions. Shout out to Snowboard Panda is on here. Says Snowboard Panda says, nice. I need to figure out how to start utilizing my GoPro as well. Yeah, I think that once you start using it, you're gonna get the hang of it and it's gonna be all good. And it's Bicorn says, the Hero 8 and Max are amazing. I have an 8 and saving for the Max. The 8 is epic, but for what I do, I need the Max. Oh, interesting. So guys, I'm gonna try to just get to all the GoPro questions to start, but maybe in a little while I'll get to some snowboard questions as well. And Ride the Goon says, literally looking at a vlog setup all day long, then you drop this, buying a Hero 8 right now. Nice, man. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's the best camera setup at the moment out there. Mainly for that stabilization effect. Like, there's a lot of shots I get where I'm just holding the camera itself in my hand. So if I'm filming something, even for like the vlog style stuff where I'm not even on the mountain, I'm just maybe, I don't know, filming something off the mountain. It's like so convenient just to pull out the GoPro and hold it in your hand to film something. Yeah, super convenient, super easy to use. And yeah, just all around, I feel like the easiest camera setup is the way to go. All right, shout out to everyone that tuned in to watch this early as well. Move Explore, Accusing Sloth 89, L Stacker, Highland Cow. Awesome, thank you guys all for tuning in to check out the live stream. All right, let's get to a snowboard gear question. Alvaro wants to know, how would you compare union force versus stiff bindings? I mean, what's the biggest difference? Yeah, I find that the union force, they're like a medium stiffness binding. So yeah, they're kind of a binding that can do a bit of everything. The pair of forces I had, I wasn't a huge fan of the ankle strap. I thought it was a little bit too bulky and restrictive, but I think on the newer models of the forces, they have a better ankle strap setup, so consider that. But if you like a really stiff binding for like carving or powder, then maybe the union forces, they may be too soft. They're more like a mid flex. El Stacker says you'd enjoy having a drone. Yeah, man, you can definitely film some cool stuff with the drone. And yeah, I'm kind of, I haven't used mine in a while, but yeah, it'd be fun to get back into it. And Ride the Goon is shouting out TJ's video on the GoPro 8 versus 7. Yeah, that was a great video that TJ done down at Keystone in Colorado. And he put the 8 versus the 7 like side by side so that you can see the stabilization in the 8 compared to the 7. I think that was a really cool test for sure. And Crustacean Nation says, we just got 2 feet in Big Bear down in Colorado or in California. Oh, amazing. Too bad the resorts are closed. Yeah, it really sucks all the resorts are closed. I hope everyone is staying safe out there and getting through this whole quarantine business. Brent says, my footage always seems so far away. Is there an easier way to get closer footage? Do I just need to be comfortable filming and boarding closely? Yeah, that's a good point. Like sometimes the GoPro does make things look far away. So I think the first thing to look at is which mode you're filming in. So if you're filming in linear mode, that's gonna make things look closer. Whereas if you're filming in wide or super view mode, those two modes are gonna make things look much further away. So I would say first check that and make sure you're filming in linear. The second thing is, yeah, make sure you're filming with a long enough pole. So one that goes to like 40 inches really helps to get as close as possible, so then you have to ride super close. As long as you got your arm reaching out and you're pointed at the rider, that'll make it closer. And yeah, I think just by filming and riding more and more, you're gonna get more comfortable getting close to somebody too. So yeah, all those three things I think will help to make the footage appear closer and get you closer. But yeah, that was something that I definitely had to learn over the years, is just learning to ride and film, so that I'm paying attention to riding, and then at the same time, yeah, thinking about where I'm pointing the camera as well. I probably think about, it's like 80% focusing on riding, and then 20% just making sure that the camera's pointed at the rider. And then another thing, when you're filming somebody riding, make sure that you have it pointed low enough that the board is in the frame the whole time. I find that if I'm filming somebody snowboarding, and if the snowboard is cut off, that's like really makes the footage not as much fun to watch. Whereas as long as I keep the board in the frame, and if somebody's head gets cut off a little bit in the footage, then that's no big deal. But having the board in the frame is the main thing. Wei Chun Lee says, how long did it take you to figure out how to film and edit good quality videos? Good question. Like, I think you're always learning how to make better videos. When I started out, they were probably very rough and maybe even unwatchable. But over the years, I've just been practicing by doing. So even though my videos were probably not very good to start, I just continued to practice. And yeah, it probably took, I don't know, like maybe 6 months before I really got the hang of editing and how to film, how to edit, and how to put everything together so that it was creating a coherent and fairly well put together video. But I think even today, I'm still just learning how to use the equipment better, how to edit better, and all that kind of stuff. So you're always learning, and there's always somebody who's gonna have better quality videos. So yeah, it's just about putting in the effort to learn. And Highland Cow says, can you feel the difference with the carbon fiber pole? Yeah, definitely. The carbon fiber pole is much lighter than like a standard pole. So yeah, I recommend getting the lightest pole you can if you're shopping on Amazon or somewhere. Yeah, take a look at the weight difference between poles, and yeah, if you can, pick up a carbon fiber one. It makes a huge difference. Colin Walton says, how do you do the POV shot on GoPro? Oh, that's a good question. Actually, that's something I forgot to mention. So I have like a head strap that I put over top of my helmet. And then yeah, the GoPro just attaches right here. So yeah, just put this on my head, and yeah, you kind of take some time to make sure that the GoPro is like lined up the way that you want it. Put it into super view mode so that it's getting as much as possible. And I would say the best POV angle from the top of your helmet. So have the camera like right in the front of your helmet, and then angle it down so that you can see like your snowboard, and then as much of what's coming in front of you as possible. So yeah, that's kind of a tricky thing. It may take a little bit of practice to kind of get the angle right. But yeah, this is, I think I picked up this helmet strap for like $30 or something like that. And I've used it hundreds of times to get the POV shot. Ross Harmon says, should I upgrade from a Hero 6? I think you should. Yeah, the Hero 6 is decent at stabilization, but the 8 is like totally next level, like makes it very smooth. The footage really comes out looking like you're using a gimbal with the Hero 8. So if you're looking for those like crazy smooth shots, I would definitely upgrade to the 8. Yes wants to know if I'm going back to New Zealand. Yeah, going back. Oh, well, hopefully when if I can travel outside of Canada and get on planes, then I'll be going to New Zealand sometime at the end of August. Mattis wants to know, how many batteries do you ride with for filming in cold weather? Yeah, usually 7 batteries. So I've got 5 extra here, and there's another 6 around, and I've got 1 in the GoPro at the moment. So I usually have bring 7 batteries out with me, which is kind of a lot. But the GoPro batteries, I think they're like $20 or $25 a piece. So it's worth it for me, because if I'm filming all day long, I don't want to miss out on a shot. So if you're not doing a ton of filming, then you can maybe get away with 3 or 4 batteries. But if you plan on doing a lot of filming and it's cold weather, then you may need 6 or 7. Daniel Z says, what do you want to see for the GoPro 9 update? Wow, man. Yeah, GoPro 9, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe like it'd be cool if there was a screen on the front of the camera, so that when you're talking to the camera, you can see like a small screen here, so that you can actually see what you're filming. Better battery life probably. So if they had those cold weather batteries, that would be pretty nice. And yeah, what else? I think the stabilization is perfect. I don't think they need to improve that at all. But maybe just continue to improve the microphone quality too. If they came out with an accessory that was like something like the wind jammers or the wind stoppers that were a GoPro specific thing, that would be cool. But yeah, just a few tweaks and I'd be happy. Highland Cow says, what is the oldest GoPro you would recommend for decent footage? I wouldn't go further back past the 7, just because I think the 7 is where they got the stabilization pretty decent, so that if you're out filming and you're a bit shaky, it's still fairly smooth and watchable. I think if I were to go back and watch footage from the GoPro 6, everything is looking a little bit too shaky to just film, unless you already had a gimbal. So if you have the GoPro gimbal, then you could get away with using the 5 or 6. But without the gimbal, I wouldn't go back further than the 7. And a snowboard question, what's your opinion on the Libtech Skate Banana? I think the Skate Banana is a pretty fun board, full rocker. So it's got the tips rise away from the snow, the center is in contact. And it's like a fun, I think, beginner intermediate board. I think it's very quick turning, easy to press, but not the most stable snowboard if you're riding like with speed. So if you want a board that turns quickly and is very catch free and is easy to press, and you're like sort of a beginner intermediate, I think the Libtech Skate Banana is a good board. Karan says, head mount versus chest mount. Ooh, good question. I think with snowboarding, the chest mount won't work, because when you're snowboarding, you're kind of like facing sideways most of the time with your chest, and kind of like looking over your shoulder. So I don't think the chest mount would work for snowboarding. Probably for like downhill mountain biking, the chest mount is probably the best POV, but for snowboarding, I think you got to go for the helmet mount. Colin says, how do you get the smoothest POV GoPro footage? What setup for POV shots do you recommend? So I think I already went over it, but I can go over it again. I like to use the strap, this on top of my helmet, and then getting the angle right. So having the GoPro right at the front, getting the angle right so that you can see your snowboard. I would put it in 1080 super view and 60 frames a second, and I think you should be good. Eric Kim, how do you do epic powder whips? Yeah, to spray up a bunch of powder, you just get your board sideways quickly for a second, put some pressure on it, throw up some snow, and then let your board go straight again. That's all there is to it. A bit of speed, yeah, bit of speed, and put on the brakes for a second and powder. Adam, what is the best action camera for snowboarding? To be honest, I haven't tested all the action cameras out, but for me, it's the GoPro 8 for sure. Mattis says, why do you use the strap instead of a sticker mount? Yeah, it's a good question. So a few reasons. I do change helmets every 4 or 5 months. So every time I hit my head at all with my helmet, I always change it up, get a new helmet. So I guess this is a way that I can just have the strap and not every time I get a new helmet, I don't have to get a new sticker for it. Also, I feel like a little bit more secure putting the strap over top of my helmet, that the GoPro is not just going to come like flying off. I'd be a little bit worried just having the GoPro on the mount stuck to my helmet just in case that sticker did come off. So yeah, that's why I have the strap. I feel like the strap is easy. Can just have it in my bag or in my jacket pocket and just use it. And to be honest, I don't use the POV very often. So like I don't want to have a sticker on my helmet when I only use POV, very rarely. So yeah, that's why I don't use the sticker mount. But mainly I think I'd be worried that the GoPro is going to come off. Jordy says, I got the GoPro 7 and it works so good. Awesome, man. That's great. If it's working for you, then yeah, keep going with it. Stick Noise 23 says, who inspired you to start filming, and any favorite filmers? Yeah, good question. To be honest, when I started, it was I just wanted to share snowboarding and make tutorials to help people learn about snowboarding. So that's what inspired me to start. And favorite filmers, at the moment, I don't really have any favorite ones. Like there are some films over the years that I've really enjoyed, but just somebody that stands out is Gimbal God, who films with Stale. Some of his GoPro footage is incredible. So follow him on Instagram and check out all of his videos. And yeah, watching him and Stale film together is pretty incredible. ArcVids says, what memory card and space do you usually have, or do you have multiple? Good question. Yeah, so I use 64 gig memory cards. Maybe I can show you the memory card I have in this one. And 64 gig it usually is enough. That's about 2 hours of footage if I'm filming 1080 at 120 frames per second. So I usually don't film more than 2 hours of footage at a time. So yeah, this is the guy right here. I don't think it's gonna, but it's the SanDisk Extreme 64 gigabyte. Yeah, and then it's got some other details there, but yeah, SanDisk Extreme 64 gig. And I've got a few of those, so if that one gets corrupted or gets full, I usually have a second or third as well. Dave Butler with the snowboard question, how would you describe the difference in feeling between riding camber versus rocker? Good question. So camber, when you're riding camber, because the center of the board raises away from the snow, and then as you go out towards the tips, they get closer to the snow, so that's basically what the camber is. And you feel like you have more control. So if you're riding at high speeds, you really feel like you're using the entire length of the edge to control your speed, to use as you're riding. So I feel like you feel like you're in more control. But because you feel like the entire length of the edge is in contact with the snow, you also feel like you have to make your turns a little bit more precise, because there is the chance of catching if you make a mistake going onto a new edge too soon or too late. compared to a full reverse camber rocker profile where you feel like the board is looser, so you're able to turn more quickly. But then the flip side of that is that you feel like you don't have as much control. So even though you feel like you can turn quicker and with more catch free, you don't feel as confident riding at high speeds, and you feel like you have a bit less control. So yeah, those are the two, I think, trade-offs with camber versus rocker. Rappy90 says, hey Kevin, when you film, do you use flat color mode or color correct in post, or just use the GoPro color mode? Yeah, so I do use the GoPro just like auto color mode, I guess. So just using the GoPro settings. But once I import it into my editor, if I notice that the light is a little bit flat, or if everything kind of looks a bit gray or dark, I'll add a few effects to it to make it brighter and more vibrant. So some brightness and contrast to the clips to make them look a little, just add some more contrast and some more brightness to it. And Jordy wants to know, what editor program do you use for your vids? So I use Adobe Premiere Pro CC, and I think you have to pay $20 a month for that program. But if you learn the basics with Adobe Premiere, then yeah, you'll just have to learn little things along the way, and I find Adobe Premiere is the best for that. Shout out to Lewis for tuning in. What's up, man? Ollie says, if you were riding without recording, would you wear the Ruroc helmet? I probably wouldn't wear the Ruroc helmet just because I don't think I need like the full face. And I don't know if I would like the Ruroc goggles. I really like my Anon M4s and also Oakley goggles. So I don't want to have to wear a different pair of goggles. JP says, what hard drive do you recommend for scratch disc and clip dumps? What resolution do you shoot at? Do you down res when editing, or do you edit at full res? Yeah, good question. So I have, for like storage of my clips, I have a solid state drive. I think it's a Western Digital, like 256 gig. I think it's that, or it could be a 500 gigabyte solid state drive by Western Digital that I use. And I also have a solid state drive in my laptop computer. So I think solid state drives are the quickest for editing. And the resolution I shoot at is 1080, 120 frames per second in linear mode. So that's so that at that resolution, it's pretty easy on the camera or on the computer to edit, and it doesn't take up a ton of room on your hard drive. And I usually edit in full res unless my computer is struggling, then I may make the resolution like a bit less, but usually I edit in full res. El Stacker says, your beanie looks brand new. Did you keep the last one for yourself? Yeah, this is like, I opened this beanie up a few weeks ago, and I'm trying to keep it like pristine because I know it may be my last beanie for a while. All right, yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in to hang out and ask questions about the GoPro setup for snowboarding. John says, do you still use a gimbal? I find snowboarding rocks left and right a lot. The GoPro 8 cannot stabilize it enough. Okay, so John says, do you still use a gimbal? I find snowboarding rocks left and right a lot. I think for me, like just because I film so much, I can hold the camera fairly straight and level just while I ride. And surprisingly, to me, I think the GoPro 8 does like an insanely good job at stabilizing while you're filming somebody else. So I don't really think that it's, to me, it's not that. Maybe if you practice more, if you're just out riding and just practice kind of holding it level yourself, I think the GoPro 8 will do a good enough job. But if you prefer the gimbal, then I would say, you know, just use what works for you. Use whatever you think is best. Get out for a day filming with the gimbal and then compare it to just filming with the 8 and see which one you like better. For me, I think, you know, the gimbal probably does do a better job, but you also have to, oh, sorry about that. You also have to carry around that extra weight of having the gimbal, so it's a trade-off. I think, to me, the GoPro 8's worth it, but yeah, for everyone's a bit different. Duck Official YT says, what computer do you edit on? Yeah, great question. So I have a Dell XPS 15, and I believe I have an i9 processor with 500 gig solid state drive, I believe 16 gigs of RAM, and my computer does have a graphics card as well. Yeah, I recommend if you do get a computer for editing, make sure it has a graphics card. Get a solid state drive if you can. A lot of computers, you know, over $1,000 will be able to edit video fairly easy. But I would say one thing to make sure your laptop or desktop computer has is a graphics card. Yeah, and besides that, yeah, unless you want to film at like really high rates, like the better quality the video footage, the better computer you need to get. But if you're just filming at 1080, then you should be good with a fairly standard computer. And Jared wants to know, have you always lived in Whistler? Yeah, I've been living in Whistler for a while now, for about 15 years. But before that, I lived in Ontario, near Toronto, in a small city called Oshawa. So I grew up in Oshawa, Ontario in Canada, and moved out to Whistler about 15 years ago. All right, yeah, shout out to everyone for hopping in here. And Jen, thanks for hopping on, man. Duck Official, Jared. If you guys like this topic too, make sure you give this video a like, and yeah, make sure you subscribe if you guys haven't already. And if anybody's rewatching this, if you guys have any questions about GoPros for filming snowboarding, definitely leave me some questions down in the comments. But yeah, let's see if there's any more questions in here. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the next GoPro as well, the GoPro 9. I know every year they manage to come out with new things. Like when I had the GoPro 7, I really didn't think that they'd be able to make it such a huge leap with the GoPro 8, but they definitely have. And it just makes filming snowboarding and editing and creating videos so much easier when you have to worry about less and less things. Yeah, one thing I recommend if you're looking to get into filming snowboarding, to get just start with a very basic setup. So if you do get the GoPro 8, just keep it basic, and you know, just film things that are interesting to you, and then that makes it just that much more easy too when you go to edit, because you filmed a bunch of things that you find interesting, so that when you sit down to edit, you can quickly go through that footage and create a video. And if you're interested in making videos, I think the best thing to do is to just start doing it. A lot of people, I think, are hesitant to make videos because they think, you know, they're not good enough, or they're worried about what other people will think. But the main thing with doing anything is that you just are doing it, and you're doing it a lot, and that's the only way to get better. So when you watch, you know, people that have snowboard videos out there that are high quality and incredible looking and super polished, just know that that person started out by making some, you know, pretty basic videos when they started out as well. So I think the best way, if you want to get better at video making and snowboarding or whatever you're interested in, it's all about just doing it as much as possible and putting yourself out there too, because somebody might watch a video and tell you exactly what they think. They can tell you all the things they love about your video, and then maybe all the things that they don't like, and then that'll give you some ideas of what kind of video to make next time. All right, a few more questions coming in. Patrick, do you use wide or super view for your self shots? Yeah, so when I'm filming myself, I definitely put it into super view mode. I find that, like, for me, I'm a bit taller, so I'm 6'3", so filming myself is actually a little bit difficult to get my, like, from my board all the way to the top of my head all in the shot. But when I put it into super view and I use like a 40-inch or longer pole, then I find that I can get everything into the shot. So definitely super view to get, you know, your entire body in the shot. And JP says, I've seen some 360 footage where there's no selfie stick in the final footage, but you can see the stick in the shadows. How do you do that? Is that drone done in post or in the camera? Yeah, great question. So basically what's happening is a 360 camera. So I have a 360 camera around here somewhere, but there is a lens on either side. And then that lens is each filming like 180 degrees and then putting it together for 360, so that when you're looking back and the stick is gone, it's because the camera has like stitched the video together everywhere that it can see. So it's stitching together 180 degrees from each lens. And so then where there's a tiny gap from where the pole is, it ends up just getting stitched together, making it look like there's no pole there. But really what's happening is there is a gap there for the pole, like less than 1 degree angle, that they've just basically cut out of the shot and stitched those two camera angles together. So it looks like there's no pole there, but there would be if the editing, if the camera itself didn't like stitch that video together and just take out the pole. So it's kind of tough to explain, but basically, yeah, it just disappears by the camera stitching those two videos together. All right, JP says, cool. I've always wondered that. Yeah, it's a confusing one for sure. All right, sweet. Yeah, I think I've got it all covered, but yeah, just a quick overview, guys. Been using the GoPro 8. Stabilization is incredible. Got a couple little wind jammers to help with the wind noise over top of the mic, so I highly recommend that. Carbon fiber pole, and if you want to film yourself at all, I think 40-inch, the one that extends out to 40 inches is the way to go. But yeah, this is my basic setup, and then I film at 1080, 120 frames per second, and linear mode when filming other people. When I'm filming myself, it's 1080, 60 frames per second in wide mode. And then yeah, I've got the 7 batteries total, just because it does get so cold out there. So ride with as many GoPro batteries as you can. Yeah, I do have the helmet mount as well for doing the POV shots, which again, I film at 60 frames per second, 1080 super view. Yeah, next external power bank for charging up batteries for those really cold days as well. Got the 64 gig SanDisk Extreme memory card. And yeah, I have in the past used the gimbal with the GoPro 7, but I do think that the GoPro 8 is the gimbal killer, so I think you could just get away with the 8. And then I do have the Sony camera as well, the RX100 Mark V, for some specialty filming, but it is difficult to get up on the mountain and film with fancy cameras when you have the snow and all the elements going against you. And El Stacker wants to know what happened to the window that was behind me. So I'm actually in a different room. So I've switched rooms. So I'm not in my bedroom anymore filming these videos. I'm in like a spare room. And yeah, El Stacker, if you have any tips for decorating advice for these videos, let me know, man. And Engen with the super chat says, tips and tricks to make your batteries last longer. Ooh, good. That's a good point. and Jen. Yeah, you can make your batteries last longer. It's kind of tricky, but if you keep your batteries in a warm pocket, that's one way that they can stay good longer. A lot of times the batteries will die just because of the cold. So if in between runs, if you're sitting on the chair, if you can take your GoPro and maybe like put it into your jacket or like underneath your armpit or someplace warm, then it'll definitely help to keep the GoPro batteries lasting longer. In the past, I've actually gotten some hand warmers. I don't know if you've ever had been up on the mountain and you've gone into the chalet. You can buy hand warmers for like $2 and put them into your mitts. But if you put a hand warmer in with your GoPro or into your pocket, that helps to keep the batteries going as well. And another thing I would say, like, if you're worried about your battery life, just like only film the things, be more selective with what you're filming. So don't just like film for hours on end, be like very selective, and then you can conserve battery life that way too. And then yeah, for a lot of times when I was getting out, starting filming too, I would forget to charge the batteries. So getting into a habit where you're charging the batteries as soon as you get home and making sure that when you go out the next day, you got a whole fleet of fully charged GoPro batteries, that really helps. And JP Regalado with the super chat. Thanks for the support, JP. Awesome, man. Lewis M wants to know, Kevin, why did you choose snowboarding over skiing? Good question, man. So I actually started out skiing when I was like 13. I went with like a friend and his family skiing and had a great time. And then I started to see snowboarders on the mountain, so I was interested in giving snowboarding a try. So I had a friend in high school that taught me how to snowboard. And so then I got more into snowboarding. And then I started teaching snowboarding when I was 19. So I was mainly teaching snowboarding, but I wasn't getting a lot of hours teaching snowboarding. So I picked up teaching skiing as well so that I could get more hours. So I was teaching skiing and snowboarding so that I could make it like a full-time job out of it. And then when I moved out to Whistler, I was doing a bit of both, but there came a point where I needed to buy new setups in each, and I could only afford one. So I liked snowboarding a bit more. It felt a bit more natural and kind of more of like a surfing feeling snowboarding. So I decided to just snowboard. So I remember, I think it was my second year living in Whistler, I decided to switch over to snowboarding full time. I told my boss that I wouldn't teach skiing anymore. And I think I even gave away my skis. So even if they wanted me to teach skiing, I didn't have the skis or any of the equipment to do it anymore. So yeah, went full-time snowboarding after that. So yeah, I just liked it a bit more, and I couldn't afford to buy 2 sets of equipment anymore. So that's why I chose snowboarding. John So says, I have a tip for the battery. My Insta360 doesn't turn on when it's too cold. I take it out and stuff it in my gloves on the way up, but you risk dropping it on the chair. That's true. No, that's a good one. If you can keep it warm on the chair, sometimes if it does die, if you can warm it back up, then it'll come back to life. I like doing the armpit one. I think that's one of the warmest places. Highland Cow wants to know, can you surf? I can't really surf. I did learn to surf in Australia, in the Gold Coast. So I did some surfing in the Gold Coast of Australia, Broad Beach and places like that, a surfer's paradise. But I haven't really done any surfing in the last 10 years. So I think I could probably pick it up if I practice for a few months somewhere. I might have to do like a trip to Hawaii or somewhere to get back into it. But yeah, I can surf, but I'm not very good. JP says, thanks, Kev. I like your direct tone. Tough for me to watch some ADD YouTube who scream me. Quick edit footage. Appreciate your footage, well thought out. Community that you foster as a result shows. Awesome. Thank you, JP Regalado. Appreciate it. Where are you watching from, JP? I like your last name. It's really hard to say though. Regalado. Nice, man. NH Local says, Kevin, will you put links in the description for all your GoPro setup gear? Yeah, I can do that. I actually, I'll do that right after this. So I'll put links to all the gear that I use. That's a good idea. Daniel Z with kind of a comment here says, don't buy third-party batteries. I filmed with my friend's GoPro on a third-party battery. It lasted a total of 30 seconds. Yeah, those third-party batteries can be a bit of a gamble. So I only use GoPro batteries just because the cost difference isn't that much, and it's risky buying a third-party battery for sure. Oh, JP is watching from Los Angeles. Shout out to everyone down in LA. And Engine says, Daniel Z, I know that filming for students for years. Awesome, man. Yeah, filming, if you guys aren't interested in making videos too, but you're still kind of interested in filming yourself. If you film yourself like riding, it's a good way to like look back at the footage and then see like things that you may be doing right or things that you're doing wrong. So it's like a good way to maybe get a friend to film you if you're doing a trick or if you're just riding, and it can give you some ideas on what you can change or improve in your riding, or even like what you're doing right. So yeah, having somebody film you snowboard or doing any kind of like activity where you're trying to progress and improve is it's like a really great tool for doing that. And Z-Streak says, hey Kevin, I learned so much from your channel. I just got a new board. Stay safe and keep it up, Kev. Love from the Netherlands. Awesome, man. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I hope you're staying safe out there too. Hope everyone's staying safe. But yeah, shout out to everyone over in the Netherlands. Shout out to everyone in Boise, Idaho too, from the UK, from Great Falls, VA. Where's VA? Is that Virginia? Seth with a binding question, what can stiffer bindings help with? I think stiffer bindings are better for riding with speed, carving, and riding in powder. So stiffer bindings are going to give you more responsiveness into your board, and they're also going to give you more like stabilization. So if you're riding and you need those like quick movements, so for carving at high speeds and you really need your board to perform quickly, then a stiffer binding will transfer your movements into the board faster and with more precision. So yeah, that's like the benefit of a stiff binding. Reggie says, I have a GoPro 7. I haven't used it as much in snow season, but the last one was January 19th. And batteries don't last. Oh no, sorry to hear that, Reggie. Yeah, I think unfortunately in the cold, GoPro batteries don't last very long, and that's why I have 7, unfortunately. Ride the Goon says, ever thought about using different lenses for the GoPro? Yeah, do you mean like lenses like the, what are they called? Yeah, like you can get different like lens add-ons for, yeah, like why can't I think of what they're called? But yeah, I have actually used those in the past. Like one was for like really sunny days, like a polarizing lens. So I have used those in the past, but yeah, I haven't used them recently just because I feel like the GoPro now does a really good job at getting the colors and everything right. So for the older GoPros, I feel like those are more effective, but for the new GoPros, I don't find the need to add lenses on as much. Lewis M says, are you a full-time YouTuber? Yeah, I've been full-time YouTube for 3 or 4 years now. So yeah, this is the full-time gig. Braun says, is a gimbal worth the money? I think it is if you don't have the GoPro 8. I would say if you had, say, like the GoPro 7 and you were debating buying the gimbal, I'd recommend just buying the GoPro 8 because the GoPro 8 I think has pretty close to the same stabilization, and it's much easier to film with because it's lighter and like one less thing to worry about. Crazed Method says, what area of Japan would you recommend for a 2-week trip to board? I'd recommend going to Niseko. Niseko is my favorite place to snowboard in Japan. Really light powder, lots of resorts to choose from, and yeah, just a really fun overall place. John says, my daughter is 10 and skiing pretty good. She wants to snowboard. Any tips? Yeah, I would say just bring her out snowboarding, find some place small to practice, and just like take your time learning. Like check out some of the beginner videos, and yeah, just take your time learning with her, like, and do it at a pace that she enjoys. And yeah, as long as she's learning and having fun doing it, then I would say like stick with it. But yeah, just find some place mellow. It doesn't even, you don't even need a chairlift. You could just hike like a short and easy hill to start out with. But yeah, that's pretty cool that she wants to give it a try. That's awesome. And Lewis M says, do you try and snowboard every day during the normal season? Not every day, but maybe like 5 days a week. So yeah, try to 5 days of riding and then 1 or 2 rest days a week for sure. And NH Local wants to know the GoPro settings one more time. Yeah, definitely, man. So when I'm filming other people, it's in linear mode, 1080 at 120 frames per second. And if I'm filming myself, I do 1080, 60 frames per second in super view. And then if I'm doing the POV style on the helmet, then I do super view, 1080 at 60 frames per second. Red's Cap shouting out, hit the like button. Thanks, man, for the support. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, for liking, for subscribing. If you guys want to see these videos live as well, if you missed the live chat, definitely hit the bell beside the subscribe button too, because then that notifies you every time I go live. Awesome, guys. So just over an hour on the live chat about the GoPro. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did find the video helpful, definitely, yeah, like, subscribe, and share. But yeah, it's awesome to hang out with you guys for this last hour, talk about GoPro. I hope you guys get some good videos going. But yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Hope everyone has a good night. Yeah, be safe out there, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Bye, everyone.